Shalom Aleichem. This is Dr. Yaakov Freedman speaking to you from my car because I went away for Shabbos and my family is having a really good time right now. And I promised my dear colleagues, Rav Chaim Silverstone and Rav Yaakov Goodman, that I would get this video out by Shabbos. It is now Motzi Shabbos, and for sure it is time to get this video out on behalf of Epic Families. Fantastic organization. I actually knew it as Yedidim back in the day. This is a great organization doing fantastic things, including this Global Parenting Summit, which is a wonderful thing, whether you're in Yerushalayim, Beit Shemesh, Reykjavik, Iceland, New York, Atlanta, or anywhere else interesting. One way or another, I'm happy to be here. Big yasher koach to Rav Goodman for putting this together. And again, my name is Dr. Yaakov Freedman, and I'm happy to be here to talk today about motivational interviewing as a means of interacting with your children to solve complex issues. So motivational interviewing, a bit of history, is a great program that was invented by a doctor named Dr. William Miller approximately 40 years ago. Dr. Miller was a psychologist that was working within the VA system in America, and he was working with alcoholics and drug addicts dealing with complicated addiction issues. And he found that the existing approaches to addressing issues of addiction just weren't cutting it. Now, motivational interviewing essentially came to fill the gap between a more client-centered approach where patients were allowed to just do whatever they felt, and between a more directed approach whereby the psychologist, the psychiatrist, and other clinicians involved would tell the patient what to do, and the patient wouldn't be too interested in getting any help whatsoever. So to fill that void came motivational interviewing. And motivational interviewing is an active and empathic way of addressing a situation, as opposed to a passive or a confrontational way of addressing a situation of addiction. So the clinician involved is an active participant in an ongoing discussion, and it's not about placing blame or about being aggressive. It's more about understanding in an empathic way where the individual with the addiction is coming from. In motivational interviewing, Dr. Miller proposed that we should avoid arguments and do whatever we can do to be non-judgmental, because this is a companionship and this is a partnership. And these are kind of the essential traits of motivational interviewing, whereby the motivation for change, no matter what the issue is, and obviously we're talking about parenting, but this is an approach used throughout addiction in mental health. So the motivation for change comes from the patient, not from the clinician. So while I have a million good reasons why my patients should stop drinking, should stop smoking, should stop using drugs, it doesn't matter what my good reasons are. It matters what the patient wants. And that's a very, very important thing that we're going to go over and understand, and then we're going to apply it to parenting. So one more time, the motivation for change is not what I think the good reasons for change are. The motivation for change is what the patient feels is their own reason for making a significant U-turn in their life. So I'll never forget the time that I saw a patient for the third time in the detox center that I was interning in as a trainee at Harvard Med School about 15 years back. So there was a individual who had already been through tons of detoxes. We'll call him Mr. O'Leary, fellow from South Boston, who had a long history of drinking. And Mr. O'Leary came back to the detox and was telling me, Doc, you know, I went right back, was hitting the bottle, drinking whiskey all day long. He had Irish coffee, which is a cup of coffee and whiskey in it. It's It's pretty disgusting, and a terrible way to start off your day. But that didn't stop him from going back to it, because this guy had a bad drinking problem. And I said to him, Mr. O'Leary, you've got a drinking problem. This is a terrible drinking problem you've got, Mr. O'Leary. And he told me, Doc, I'm fine. And I said, Mr. O'Leary, you were brought in by the cops because you were drunk driving again. You're going to lose your license. And he told me, Doc, I can just walk. I got a bus pass. I'll be fine. And I said, Mr. O'Leary, even if you don't mind losing your license, you might go to jail. And he said, Doc, I got a good lawyer. I'll be all set. My cousin's a good lawyer. He'll take care of me. And I said to him, Mr. O'Leary, you've got a drinking problem. Your liver function tests are all messed up. You might need a liver transplant one day. And he said, Doc, that's fine. Mickey Mantle, that famous baseball player, had a liver transplant, and he's fine. I'll get one too, and I'll be okay. And I said, Mr. O'Leary, you've got a drinking problem. Mr. O'Leary, you've got a drinking problem, and your wife has left you. And he said, Doc, she wasn't a good wife to begin with. I'll get another wife. I'll be fine. And I said, Mr. O'Leary, you're going to get kicked out of your apartment because you're drinking too much and your landlord isn't happy. And he said, Doc, I got a good couch to sleep on. I'll be okay. And I said, Mr. O'Leary, you've got a drinking problem. You've lost your job. And he said, Doc, I got the GI Bill. I'll be all set. I got plenty of money stored away in a pension. And I said, Mr. O'Leary, you've got a drinking problem. Your friends don't want to hang out with you anymore because you're a liability. And he said, Doc, I got plenty of other friends. I don't need those guys anyways. They never did me any good. And I said, Mr. O'Leary, you've got a drinking problem. Your dog ran away. And he said, oh, that was a good dog. That's a bad thing. Did they find him, Doc? If that's what happened and they didn't find him, I've got to stop drinking. And I said, Mr. O'Leary, what are you ready to commit to? And he said, I'm ready to commit to staying today. And that is the approach of motivational interviewing. It doesn't matter why I think it's a good idea. It matters why you think it's a good idea. And it doesn't matter what I would like you to commit to. It matters what you are ready to commit to. And again, motivation comes from the client. It does not come from me, but it is my job as the therapist to build motivation and to help the patient find their own motivation. And we see that readiness to change is not found necessarily on the surface, but rather is discovered throughout the relationship and the discussion. So using motivational interviewing, what we do is we engage. We try to understand the situation and see where everybody's at. Then we try and focus. What do we actually want to change? Then we evoke. We try to get change talk. We try and see where people are perhaps ready to make a change. So I'll say things, for example, on a scale of 1 to 10, Mr. O'Leary, how ready are you to stop drinking? And he might tell me only a 3. Now, I could say a 3, wow, that's terrible. Or I could say a 3, that's fantastic. And Mr. O'Leary might say to me, a 3, that's not very fantastic. And I would say, hey, it's better than a 2. And he might start laughing. That would create a better relationship and dialogue between us. And he might then say, well, a 2 would be if I'm only, ready to drink, for example, after 10 a.m. But because it's a 3, I'm ready to give up drinking until 6 p.m. And then planning. How can we connect the motivation for change to actually taking concrete steps to move forwards? So I will use a couple of other important ideas here as well. Affirmation. This is recognizing that people have tried to change in the past. I could say, Mr. O'Leary, some people might say it's not so good that you have been in and out of the detox. I would say this suggests that you actually do want to make some changes in your life. I can also use reflective listening. So Mr. O'Leary will say something to the effect of, Doc, it's not a big deal. I don't really mind, being back here. It doesn't really faze me at all. It doesn't matter that my liver's not good, although, it kind of feel like crummy throughout the day. But on the same hand, my life's going pretty good. It's not a big deal. So I could say something to the effect of, if I'm correct, Mr. O'Leary, it sounds like you're feeling okay. and it's not such a big deal to be back here, and you kind of enjoy your life. On the other hand, it sounds like sometimes you don't feel too good, and you're wondering if maybe you're not starting to feel a bit sick from all the drinking you've been doing. So this is, again, reflective listening. I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm repeating it back to you to make sure that I have it right. And that furthers the discussion because it shows that I'm paying attention to you. When we're ready to go ahead and to make change, again, we go with what's called SMART goals. SMART goals is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely goals. So specific means that it's very concrete, okay? I could say to Mr. O'Leary, are you ready to stop drinking? He could say, yeah. And I would say, great. So do you want to cut down? And he could say, yeah, I could cut down. But that wouldn't be specific. It would be hard to actually figure out what we're talking about. What does it mean to cut down? What does it mean to stop a little bit? What does it mean to make a tiny change? Rather, specific means, can you not drink before 10 p.m.? Can you go to an AA meeting tomorrow? Can you give up alcohol for 24 hours? Are you willing to check into a detox? Very specific things, okay? So that's the first step. Now, measurable goals are also important. So measurable means black and white. It either happened or it didn't. So if I say, Mr. O'Leary, no drinking before 10 p.m., and he says, great, and then drinks at 9:55 p.m., that would be a bzz, nope, you didn't hit it. If he says, I'm going to go to 5 AA meetings the next 5 days, then we either know it happened or it didn't. Okay, so very black and white here. We want to go with achievable and relevant. That means that it's something that a person can actually do. If I say to somebody, Mr. O'Leary, you told me that you're never going to drink again. That's not really an achievable or relevant goal because never again is a long time. Rather, we'd go something like make it to midnight sober or try and give me 30 days in a program because that's something that a person could actually wrap their mind around. And then we go with time bound. So if it isn't today, then it's never going to happen. If we say, why don't you think about checking into a rehab in a week and a half? That's a long time down the road. A lot of bad stuff could happen. But if we say, let's do it today, then it's possible that we could actually achieve something. So again, SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable and relevant, and time bound. So this is how we actually move forward with a plan for success. Okay, guys, so that's a brief intro to motivational interviewing for addiction. And you might say, Doc, thanks so much, but this is actually a parenting summit, and we're paying attention to you talking in your car for the past few minutes. So you might as well tell us something we can actually do that will apply to parenting. Well, motivational interviewing has been used for just about everything. It's been used for stopping drinking, stopping drugs, stopping smoking. It's been used for wearing seatbelts. It's been used for helping people to lose weight. So it can also be used for cultivating safety within the house. So here's one. How about waking up on time? Sounds like that's a problem for a lot of teenagers. And using a motivational interviewing approach might be helpful. We could engage and understand the situation and hear from the teenager, Yossi, why is it that you think you're waking up late? I'm not waking up late. Okay. Well, Yossi, why is it that it seems that you're getting to school late? I'm not getting to school late. Yossi, why don't you tell us what you think is going on when we're having this discussion? So just to understand where they're coming from. Okay. And it might be that they feel that all their friends are going in late. It might be that they feel that the bus's schedule isn't really fair. It might be that they have a lot of work to do at night. It might be that they want to hang out with their friends. It might be that they're overtired, like most of us. Whatever Yossi's reason is, we want to hear what he thinks is happening. We don't want to just come in and start yelling, you're waking up late, time to wake up early. And then we want to ask them, what do you want to change? So is this working for you? Because I know that you end up missing the bus. You have to walk to school and it's rainy out and that's uncomfortable and you don't really enjoy it. Or you have to now go ahead and pay for taking 2 buses as opposed to taking the free school bus. So you don't like to do that. Or it might be that you end up getting yelled at by your teacher. So you don't like that. Or it might be that you end up having to race to school and you don't have time to eat a healthy breakfast. So you're hungry during the day. We want to go ahead and hear about what might be your motivation for change. Because while I think it's unfortunate that you're getting late to school because you're missing out, and then I'm getting calls from your teacher, it's not about me. And while I think you should be at school and be asleep earlier and it's healthier and you get to eat and you get to exercise in the morning and you get to go to davening in the morning and you get to have a more successful structure, doesn't matter what I think, it matters what you think. And if what you're missing out is hanging out with your friends at the bus stop before you get on the bus to go to school, and that's your good chill time, Yossi, with your buddies, and that sets you up for feeling socially connected and to feel good about yourself. And if you end up missing that time hanging out with your friends in the morning, taking the bus, and then you feel like you're getting looped out socially, that's your motivation for change. And it's my job as your parent to help find you motivation for change. And we do that by having a discussion. So again, we can say then, well, how do you think that you could get to school on time? How do you think that you could wake up on time in order to get that time with your buddies? And he might say, well, I'm not going to fall asleep earlier, that's for sure. Say, okay, well, then how are you going to end up waking up earlier? He might say, well, I could set an alarm. I could say, that sounds good. Or he could say, well, I'll fall asleep earlier, but only if you wake me up. I'll say, would you like me to wake you up? And he might say, yeah. Or he might say, absolutely not. And I will then say, it's up to you. You tell me how I can be helpful. But in the end, you've got to be the one who does this yourself. And I might set specific goals and point out that it's going to be impossible for you to wake up at 7 a.m. if you're falling asleep at 1 in the morning. So a specific goal might be to be in bed by 11:30 at nighttime. That's specific, okay? Because it's easy to measure and it either happened or it didn't. If we talk about being in bed at 11:30, then again, 11:29 is before 11:30 and 4:15 a.m. is after 11:30 at night. It's achievable, right? Because a kid who has a lot to do might have a tough time being in bed at a normal hour. So we don't want to say, be in bed by 9 o'clock and wake up at 5 a.m. Rather, we want to say, what time do you think is a reasonable time to be in bed and a reasonable time to wake up? I want it to be achievable. Because if it isn't, we're just creating further conflict and helping a person to feel crummy about themselves. And we want it to be timely. Let's start tonight. If the plan for you to be at the bus stop tomorrow morning at 7:35 to hang out with your friends in order to get on the bus, feel like you're in a good place socially, start off your day in a good way, get into school and be successful. Whoops, we got cut off for a sec. If the plan is to make it happen, we got to make it happen starting today. We got to make it happen starting tonight, in bed at 11:30, so that way you can wake up early tomorrow and get done what needs to be done. So again, I'm bringing up an idea of motivational interviewing as a way to try and avoid conflict, as a way to put the onus of responsibility on the individual themselves, in this case, the child, with you as the parent. I'm bringing it up as a way for you to avoid conflict. Okay, we're going to scrap that last part and go back to where I cut out for a sec. Starting now, 3, 2, 1. Whoops, sorry, cut out for a sec, guys. So again, timely. If the plan is to get everybody to make changes, it's got to happen now. So the early bedtime's got to start tonight if we want to get up tomorrow on time and get to the bus stop to hang out with our buddies in order to feel good about things socially and then to have a fantastic day at school. So one more time, I came here to talk about motivational interviewing, which is a means of helping the individual find motivation for change, as opposed to coming at it from a confrontational way, which is how a lot of parents end up getting in trouble with their kids. We try and come at this from an active and empathic way to avoid arguments and focus on the partnership between parents and kids. And by doing this, we're able to successfully help kids to build achrayus, to build self-esteem, to feel comfortable with their ability to have an agency in their decision-making in order to make healthy decisions. And then we come up with plans for success that we know can be successful based on a scientific approach that really, again, is building the motivation for proper behaviors, healthy behaviors, and allowing people to be successful. So one more time, I want to thank my colleagues at Epic Families, Rav Yaakov Goodman, for all this fantastic work. Again, thousands of kids have done tremendous work as part of their participation in this program. And I think about 1,500 mentors, folks like you and me, have done great work in helping out kids in our community to do what needs to be done to allow them to live healthy, happy, and successful lives. So grocer yasher koach to everybody for participating in this program, and wishing everybody nothing but the best. And once again, forgive me for doing this out of my car. Hopefully next time I'll be able to do it standing at a stender in front of a bunch of books and looking a lot smarter than I actually am. All righty.